Hey, Captain Logos here, preacher at large, teaching the word, inspiring, 3 minutes at a time. Hey, in Samuel, reminded the story of how Samuel became the prophet. To set the background a little bit, remember Hannah was praying at the altar, and she was barren, and she wanted a child, and if God gave her a child, she promised God that she would dedicate the child to Him, and lo and behold, God gave her a child, and she was faithful to her promise. I mean, she was faithful. I mean, she took that joker, Samuel, she wrapped him all up, and she took him right down to the temple and gave him to the priest. He says, here, I promised the Lord to dedicate him to the Lord, and she gave him to the priest, and that's where he grew up, and that's where he was trained. You see, God was getting ready to raise up a new prophet, an undefiled prophet, because during this time there was all sorts of bad stuff happening. Now, Eli was the main prophet at the time, but all the jokers that he had working for him, the priest, you know, they were despicable and they were rotten, and everybody in the land was rotten, and the priest would do things like force people to give more than their share and shake them down, and if they didn't, they'd take it by force, and it made the people actually hate coming and giving an offering to the Lord. So that's sort of the backdrop here. So here's Samuel, a young lad, right? And he hears a voice, and he runs to Eli, the prophet. Hey, yes, Lord? He's like, look, I didn't call you. Go back to bed. He hears the voice again. Yes, Lord? I didn't call you. Go back to bed. Here's the voice again. Eli finally gets it. Hold on, son. That might be the Lord. So the next time say, what is your will, Lord? You know, talk to him and ask him what does he want, and listen and write down everything he says and be very careful and come back and tell me exactly what he says. Well, basically, God was giving a prophecy to Samuel, the young lad, about what's going to happen in the nation of Israel. But here's what I want us to glean from this pericope, or this short passage. The fact that the only one that could hear the Lord was a young lad, not even the prophet, because things were so bad in the land. Right? It's one thing not to hear the Lord. He doesn't always speak. It's another thing to hear the Lord and not know it's the Lord. That's a whole different ballgame. Now, Samuel was a young lad. He wasn't trained yet. He didn't know what the voice of the Lord was. So I'm not talking about Samuel. Because see, Samuel responded. He knew enough to go to Eli. It took Eli a few times, but finally Eli, the priest, the guy that's supposed to be listening and talking to God, realized that it was actually God speaking to Samuel. That's pathetic. And what caused that was that he allowed the whole nation to be pathetic in their relationship with God and to distort the God, right? And so what I want us to get out of this passage is, please, it's one thing not to hear God, but if God is speaking and we can't understand Him, or we don't know it's Him, as Christians, that's a whole different ballgame. Because we're supposed to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And it says that they that are His know His voice. My sheep know my voice. So if God is speaking and you can't hear Him, there is a problem. Once again, it's a different thing not to hear God, because He doesn't always speak. But when He speaks, if you don't know it's Him, there is an issue. We need to get our lives straight so that we can know when God is speaking to us and that we can respond to the voice of the Lord. Now, look at your face in the Bible.